Good morning. Beautiful Sunday morning, May 2nd, as the birds are chirping outside the window. It almost sounds like Easter morning. Maybe it is. Every day is, isn't it? Easter morning from now on. I hope you have a blessed day today as I get a chance to just share a quick message with you and try to catch up with my day from yesterday. Yesterday, Becky and I went to Grafton to meet our two kids who live in Columbia because their birthdays were April and one's coming up in May. And so try to get a day just to see them and take them out for birthday dinner and spend a little time together. It was wonderful. And before we left, or as we were leaving, we got up very early so we could leave and get there before breakfast time even. And as we were leaving, driving out of town, I said, "Look at that! Look at the sunrise coming up." And I took a quick picture, and of course, it's included in the mailing here, but it doesn't do it justice, of course. But and I didn't get it fast enough, so there wouldn't be all the other pieces in the view. But the idea of the picture is still the same. That when I looked at that sunset, how gorgeous it was yesterday, how beautiful it was, and yet there were clouds, and yet the sunrise as it came up made the clouds beautiful. It highlighted them, and Bob Ross's thought came into Becky's head. She goes, "Well, that's like your friend of yours always says, he makes some happy little clouds because he puts a little highlight on them." And I thought about that as we were driving, that despite the day and with any clouds that might come, that God's still going to put highlight on those clouds as well. Who knows what the things could be? You're driving away, could be a car accident, could be car troubles, could be anything could happen. We never know day to day in our life. We make assumptions, but we just don't know. And I guarantee that all of us do know that every day there are clouds that come for us. And the question is, do we leave the clouds be dark and things that overwhelm and oppress us, or does the sun that always rises highlight them and make them, even them, show promise for us? It really is important because if we don't get our thoughts put correctly in Jesus's light and into His presence, what we do is we miss the opportunities of what He shows us each day to experience, and then also to share that gift of grace and love that He offers to us, even amongst the clouds, even amongst the difficulties of the day. No matter how dark they get, the sun is always there. And so, as we went through our day, we had a couple of issues that kind of came up. We said goodbye to the kids, and we were leaving, and then Becky got in the car after we had we'd ridden across the Mississippi River there with a ferry, and rode back by ourselves and walked to our car. And as soon as Becky gets in the car, she realizes she's got her son's glasses in her bag. So she's trying to get a hold of him and tell him, "Hey, we got your glasses. We'll mail them to you." And then he calls and says, "Hey, my sunglasses just fell apart and their prescription, and so now I'm driving with one eye." And we went and met him actually in the hospital parking lot at Christian Hospital Northeast, which is where our daughter Tara was born. And then I pointed out to them the church right next to the hospital, which is where she was baptized, Chapel of the Cross Lutheran Church, and got to see them again. And then on the way home, we stopped and grabbed a little food and took a different way that we hadn't taken before out of Springfield, and followed the turns. And suddenly Becca says, "I don't recognize this road." We lost 20 minutes or so trying to drive around and turn around and figuring maybe we could just keep heading east, and just little things that just kind of all changed the day and made it difficult. And yet we were home, and we were safe and in our beds, and we were taken care of and blessed. That despite all of it, you see, and it really depends on how we face it at the moment and how we face it in each day, that God's blessing constantly keep coming to us to remind us that He is ours and He loves us, and that His light shines on us all the time. And I was thinking of two texts in particular that have something to do with that. One of them is from the Gospel of Matthew in the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus says, you've heard it said that you'll love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say to you, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven, because he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and he sends rain on the just and on the unjust. A constant reminder that God, even when we miss what God's doing, he's constantly showing grace and hope and love and a promise to get us to understand and to follow him. The other text comes from, most interestingly, from the book of Lamentations, which is a book of sadness of the people in exile. And yet it brings out one of the greatest hymns of the church, one of the old standby hymns from Lamentations 3, where the writer writes, because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassion never fails. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. It's a beautiful thing to really spend time reflecting and seeing and looking, to spiritually put all of the pieces together around us and come back to God constantly throughout the day, constantly throughout our life, constantly to see the greatness of his blessing and how always, always, always he is pouring out for us a light to find him and to be called to him. So I hope that your day offers you that light. I hope that you take advantage of that light. I hope that you find a time to be with him and in worship and in his presence, and that you constantly reflect on all the things around you to see God's presence as well, even in the clouds, even in the difficult stuff, even with all the other stuff in the way of the picture of who God is, that you see him and the truth of what he offers you, life, hope, and salvation through his Son, Jesus Christ. God bless.